Sadio Mane, he's the man being talked about. He just landed in Rabat, Morocco. So, I mean, it's really been an exciting journey so far.
Well, an exciting journey that we finally have the CAF Awards. It's been talked about since the beginning of the year. Even, I mean, we thought that the CAF Awards would hold here in Cameroon while the AFCON was going on, but it wasn't meant to be. And they kept on pressing CAF for them to be able to give out these awards. I mean, it's been 3 long years. And because of contractual issues, CAF was bound to respect the engagements that they have with their sponsors. And finally, the D-Day has come. And I think it has come with all the pomp, all the flair. We have our stars there, Christine Maning, Gaël Ganamut. We have other stars in entertainment that we know, the Ivorians, that's the musicians, yeah. Who are there. You have other musicians too who are bound to grace the show. So I think Rabat, Morocco has enjoyed in this short period. They have the women's AFCON. We've had the Legends match that Joya Jara scored. We are having the
CAF Awards.
The CAF Awards, and there was the CAF General Assembly meeting. So I think Morocco has been the talk of Africa for the past month, which is a good thing.
And Melekamla, we're receiving live images from Rabat. Exactly. You can see the president of the Moroccan FA, Fawzi Lekja, making his way to the court there. I mean, seeing all the executives, the big guys in African football are looking to get their seats as we count down. It's less than 56 minutes.
Vous avez tout à fait raison, Daniel Ekondé, quelques images du côté du Maroc. Et là, Raymond Eloumé, permettez que je vous pose cette question. Est-ce que vous pensez que ceux qui seront élus ce soir, ou alors des personnes qui seront dévoilées officiellement ce soir, on a tenu compte de ces 3 années passées ou juste de cette saison?
Well, I think if you look at there is a special category, yeah. the category of best women's team. And CAF was honest enough to say there has been no major competition for the past 3 years in the women's category.
Principalement pour les femmes.
Yes, and so what they will do is that after the ceremony of today, 2 days after, that's on Saturday, the team which wins, I mean the team which wins the competition, the final, and based on other criteria, they are going to designate who is which African women's team is going to get that prize. But I think if you look at the other categories, if you look at the short list, I mean it is quite on merit. If you look at Joya Jara, Sisat Oshwala, you look at what they've done, what Joya Jara has done with her club in Italy, Inter Milan. You look at Sisat Oshwala, what she was able to do with Barcelona, and you go to the men's category, you look at what Sadio Mane was able to achieve this year with Edouard Mendy, with Mohamed Salah. You look at the interclub competitions, with the inaugural Women's Champions League, Mamelodi Sundowns. So if you look at most of the categories, at least there is some merit as of last season until the certain cut-off period that CAF decided for us to be able to get these shortlist names.
Yeah, many categories. 13 categories, but I'm sure certainly our focus will be on the men's and women's player of the year awards, and also the national team of the year, because we do have the Indomitable Lions who are shortlisted alongside Egypt and Senegal. Melen Kamla, let's delve into a topic of today. The first, because we'll be looking at the player of the year, that's in the women's category, and Joya Jara is our interest this evening.
Vous avez tout à fait raison, Daniel Ekondé. C'est là où le Cameroun se sent plus à l'aise, ou alors plus proche, notamment la catégorie de meilleure joueuse de l'année. On parle bien de ballon d'or africain pour cette saison. Et nous avons une Camerounaise, elle s'appelle Joya Jara, qui évolue à l'Inter de Milan, qui ce soir, on va dire, opposé à Sisat Oshwala, la Nigériane, qui évolue du côté du FC Barcelone, et Grace Chanda, la Zambienne. On va revenir principalement sur Joya Jara, repasser carrément cette saison, une saison plutôt étincelante selon certains experts. On va prendre ce reportage de Audrey Gaël Abega, présentation Joya Jara.
Grande artisane de la qualification du Cameroun pour les barrages de la Coupe du monde féminine de football Australie-Nouvelle-Zélande, Chut Njoya Adiaré parmi les 10 meilleures joueuses du continent africain sélectionnées pour les Awards CAF 2022. Malgré la sortie précoce de son pays à la Coupe d'Afrique des Nations, le dossard 3 de l'équipe nationale du Cameroun de football laisse ses traces durant cette grande messe du football africain. La native de Fumban inscrit 2 buts au cours de cette compétition, l'un face à la Tunisie en deuxième sortie en phase de groupe et l'autre contre le Botswana, comptant pour les barrages. Désignée femme du match à 2 reprises.
La récupération camerounaise, peut-être la dernière occasion pour Chut Njoya Adiaré, la frappe certainement.
Elle a inscrit l'un des meilleurs buts de cette compétition, son but face au Botswana. Les Lions indomptables sont sortis en quart de finale, donc n'ont pas pu atteindre ne serait-ce que le dernier carré. Et pourquoi pas aller chercher le trophée qui était l'objectif premier de cette équipe. La présence d'un Chut Njoya Adiaré dans la shortlist du Ballon d'Or africain de football féminin ne souffre de rien.
Verso il centro, Adiaré ancora. Il tocco per Elisa Polli, prova l'1-2 ancora, Adiaré Njoya da sola, Adiaré Njoya!
Bien avant le début de la CAN, ses statistiques en club sont encourageantes. 8 buts marqués, 2 passes décisives en 18 matchs avec Inter de Milan. Un bilan positif.
E davanti, se centra Marinelli, la palla dentro per Adiaré Njoya, Adiaré si gira, mette giù l'avversario, Adiaré! Adiaré! 4-0 Inter.
Son contrat avec le club italien se prolonge jusqu'en 2024.
En face, il y a Assisat Oshuala qui en club est champion d'Espagne avec le FC Barcelone, vice-champion d'Europe avec le FC Barcelone, co-meilleure buteuse de la Ligue du championnat espagnol de première division avec Da Silva Ferreira Geise, la brésilienne de Madrid de football féminin qui a inscrit 20 buts autant qu'Assisat Oshuala dans cette compétition, sans oublier qu'elle a délivré 3 passes décisives en 19 matchs.
Malheureuse finaliste aux Awards CAF 2019, l'unique représentante du Cameroun est une sérieuse prétendante aux Awards CAF 2022.
1-1 Inter, segna solo gol pesanti, Adiaré Njoya e l'Inter trova il meritato pareggio.
Eh bien, Raymond Elomé, on se souvient en 2015, Gaël Nganamoit remportait ce titre. Nous sommes en 2022. C'est vrai que j'aimerais que vous laissiez votre côté fan. Prenons le côté statistique de l'homme qui regarde droitement sans avoir trop un penchant pour notre Camerounaise. Est-ce que vous pensez que ce soir, Chut Njoya Adiaré fait le poids face à Assisat Oshuala?
Yeah, I think in terms of statistics, Assisat Oshuala has the stats on her side. It's clear she had a wonderful season with FC Barcelona Femenino. I mean, what else can we say? She was one of the highest goal scorers in the Spanish league, the Spanish female league. In terms of titles, they won the Spanish league. They were beaten in the finals of the Women's European Champions League. It's quite unfortunate that she had an injury before the Women's AFCON, and she couldn't participate or help Nigeria, even though Nigeria qualified for the Women's World Cup without her.
But I mean, c'est juste après le premier match.
Yes, but I think Assisat Oshuala in 2014, she was voted CAF Young Promising Talent. That was in 2014, and I mean, if you take 8 years after, it confirms all the talent that she was able to show from her young years till today. My instinct, my intellect tells me that Assisat Oshuala would win. But if I have to go with the numerous calls that I've had, for example, I've had an important call from one of my elder brothers, Mao Roger, who tells me that, I mean, as a Cameroonian, he will want Chut Njoya Adiaré to win all the way, and that after Gaël Nganamoit, for everything that Chut Njoya Adiaré has achieved, she should at least get this. So let's see what happens after all.
I think that's a very tough one. People are wishing that Joya Ajara gets this. If you're a Cameroonian, that's the wish. But you cannot deny statistics. You've just talked about Asisat Oshoala looking at that most promising player of the year award that she won. 2 years later, became the African Women's Player of the Year. That's in 2016. 2017, she got it. 2019, she's the holder now. And throughout those years, she's been at top level, playing with FC Barcelona. She came in to FC Barcelona on loan from China. At the end of the day, she ended up playing with FC Barcelona. She's won the UEFA Champions League in 2021, became vice champion in 2022. That's in the women's category in the UEFA Champions League. But if you look at Joya Ajara, she hasn't really gotten that elite level in Europe. When she went to Atletico Madrid, we thought it was going to be some kind of an explosive moment, but she went to Inter Milan. It shows that maybe she's not really pushing herself to reach that elite level, maybe to compete.
No, you know, the elite level in women's football is still at the moment very restricted. If you look at the Women's Champions League for the past 10 years, look at Paris Saint-Germain, look at Lyon, what they've been able to achieve. Look at Wolfsburg, for example. If you look at recently, Barcelona, who has always been. So the elite level still at the level of the women's football is still very restricted to some teams. You will always have Olympique Lyonnais somewhere whereabouts, PSG, Barcelona, Wolfsburg, Chelsea to some extent, Manchester City. So you have some of these clubs where I mean, if you look at Italian football, the female football, they've had a very wonderful leap forward in the sense that the clubs, the women's club which are present in their league and which also qualify for the Champions League are mostly those which are also present in the men's league. So I mean, it's basically a requirement now in these top European countries that for you to have a team in the women's league, for you to be able to register a team in the men's league, you should also, as a prerequisite or as a requirement,
Avant que vous continuiez, on a eu l'occasion de voir il y a quelques instants, quelques secondes seulement, Jérémy Sorel Njitap. Ça fait plaisir de voir le Cameroun représenté à cette cérémonie. On le rappelle, elle se déroule du côté du Maroc, 2 jours avant la finale de la 14e édition de la CAN féminine. On parlait tout à l'heure, parlant des dames, principalement Ngana Mouet, Christine Mané qui représente le vert ou jaune de ce côté-là. Une grande, et là on peut l'observer, à l'instant l'entraîneur de l'équipe nationale senior, Rigobert Sonk, qui est du côté du Maroc. Il est question de porter toute l'Afrique et porter certainement à Joya Ajara, mais aussi le Cameroun qui compétit dans une autre discipline, meilleure équipe masculine de l'année. Et j'aimerais qu'on évoque ce côté-là avec vous, Raymond Neloumen, toujours en savourant ces belles images qui nous viennent tout droit du côté du Maroc. Et certainement la fierté de voir Rigobert Sonk, l'entraîneur sélectionneur des Lions indomptables du Cameroun.
As well, we also have stakeholders from African football and other legends from other African countries. There's Kalishwa Bwalia from Zambia, who played the Africa Cup of Nations. There's also Danny Jordan, the president of the South African FA. Mele Kamba, maybe before we get into the national team of the year nominees, let's look a little bit into Joya Ajara and wrap up this. Raymond, you mentioned women's football, that it's not yet really developed, but at the moment we can identify that if you're playing for Olympique Lyonnais, they've won the UEFA Champions League in the women's category multiple times. You're a top player, just like Ada Hegerberg of Norway. If you're playing for Wolfsburg, that's elite football. So is it a case of Joya Ajara working hard, getting those numbers, challenging the best?
Yes, but I mean, we should take the context in which our football is developing. Women's football, if you take it in Africa, does not have the same trajectory as the men's football. If you look at most African stars playing their trade out there, and if you look at how they came into most of these allied teams, it's not the same as the men's football. Remember that football started way back in the 18th century, and it has grown all along the years. So the way women's football is growing, it's mostly a prerequisite for FIFA to help in its development. So it's not growing at the same pace. That's why you have some clubs which have so many good players, and you have some clubs which it will take them 20, 30 years. If you look at even the development programs for women's football, it's not the same as for men's football. Look at the unlikely trajectory of Asisat Oshoala from China to Spain. It's if you look at Joya Ajara, she was playing, I think, was it in Norway? Then she got a very good contract in Spain, and then from Spain to Italy. So I think she's in the core of Europe. And if you check it out, the training methods which she has, which she had maybe with Atletico Madrid or with Inter Milan, she didn't have it with her club. You take Asisat Oshoala, the training methods she had in China are not the same as in Barcelona. So you will notice that the development of African players. Take for example, we are in the late 70s, early 80s. I listened to Tomankono, who said before he went to Europe, he had never had any specific training as a goalkeeper. It is in Europe with Espanyol de Barcelona that he discovered that there is a specific training for a goalkeeper. So I think Africa and even European countries, most part of the world, still have to get to that level of women's development.
So wrapping up, it is Asisat Oshoala who's going to get the fourth title there. We're just saying the Indomitable Lions coach Rigobert Song Bahanak, who is getting his first reaction in the Moroccan capital, Rabat. It is the 2022 CAF Awards live on CLTV Sports.
Je pense que déjà il faut dire merci à la CAF d'avoir donné l'honneur aux acteurs et de les récompenser. Et je pense que c'est un signe de motivation et c'est toujours un plaisir de pouvoir vivre ces cérémonies. Donc on est satisfait d'être là et de partager le moment sportif, footballeur à tous les passionnés.
Vous avez suivi un petit peu la compétition de la CAN féminine?
Oui, j'ai suivi un petit peu. Donc, elle se passe très bien. Et je pense que d'ailleurs, le Maroc est en train de démontrer que le football féminin aujourd'hui prend une certaine hauteur et une certaine dimension auquel je pense qu'il faut encourager ça. Et c'est une très bonne chose et je pense que ça donnera beaucoup de plaisir et beaucoup d'encouragement aux autres.
Merci beaucoup et bienvenue encore une fois.
Merci, je vous en prie. Merci.
Back to you doing.
Nous précédait il y a un instant à l'UCC Rigobert Song, tous deux à la tête des sélections nationales respectivement du Sénégal pour l'UCC et du Cameroun pour Rigobert Song. Eh bien peut-être rappeler pour les dames, on parle bien meilleur ballon d'or africain 2022 pour les dames, à Njoya Ajara du Cameroun, à Asisat Oshoala. Et en regardant cette image d'Emmanuel Adebayor, le Togolais, j'ai envie de dire Raymond Eloumé. On parle beaucoup de Njoya Ajara, Asisat Oshoala, mais on n'oublie pas qu'il y a Grace Chanda. Et ça, c'est parce que la Zambie ne fait pas le poids face aux deux autres.
Well, I think the argument is because of 2019. We all remember that in 2019, Asisat Oshoala won, and Njoya Ajara was
runner-up. Yeah.
Runner-up. So it's basically we are basically in the same situation. And then, like I was saying, with female football, it takes a long time to mature, and when you mature, your maturity also stays for so long because you are sure to have those performances for so long. Take Asisat Oshoala, best promising talent in 2014, 8 years after she's still there, right? In men's football, if you take in 2014 the best promising talent for the FIFA awards, I'm not sure that 8 years after we are yes, so that's why with men's football it goes so fast and there is a larger talent pool than in female football. I think Grace Chanda, I mean, she's there because she has her chances. But like I said, my money is on Asisat Oshoala.
She helped Zambia reach the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, eliminating Cameroon. But I think what's holding her back is that she's yet to break into elite football because she plays for BK Kazigut in Kazakhstan. So it's distant when you compare it to elite football.
That's why I was telling you that the trajectory, the paths most of these female footballers take to get out of Africa and then establish themselves in certain European teams is always a very, very difficult path. So I think we should be able to recognize them for their efforts and how they are flying not only the flag of football very high, but of female football.
Pour toutes ces personnes qui regardent CRTV Sport and Entertainment à l'instant, je rappelle, c'est la cérémonie de la CAF Award édition 2022. Nous sommes en direct avec ces images qui nous viennent tout droit du Maroc où se déroule cette cérémonie. Une cérémonie qui intervient 2 jours avant la finale de la CAN féminine. Cette finale qui va opposer cette année le Maroc à l'Afrique du Sud. Alors, on va se focaliser sur la deuxième catégorie où le Cameroun est en compétition. On parle bien de meilleure équipe masculine. On a le Cameroun, on a l'Égypte, on a le Sénégal. Raymond Eloumé. On sait que le Sénégal a remporté pour la première fois la CAN il y a quelques semaines. On sait que le Sénégal, pour remporter cette compétition, a dû batailler très fort face à un multiple fois champion, notamment l'Égypte. Le Cameroun qui a arraché la 3e place devant le Burkina Faso après être mené, faut-il le dire, 3-0 jusqu'à la 70e minute. Est-ce que lorsque vous regardez ce parcours, principalement pour les 3 pays, vous vous dites que le Cameroun a sa chance?
The last time we won best team in Africa was in 2003. Yes, Cameroon may surely have its chances.
Ça fait beaucoup, 19 ans déjà. Peut-être on va prendre, on aura l'occasion parce que nous sommes en direct, c'est aussi ça.
Écoutez Aliou Cissé, avec moi,
c'est l'entraîneur de l'équipe du Sénégal.
Cissé, bienvenue au Maroc.
Bonjour madame.
D'abord, qu'est-ce que vous pensez de cette cérémonie des nominés? Quelles sensations ça vous donne ce genre de cérémonie?
Mais magnifique, c'est la fête du football africain. Aujourd'hui, c'est le gratin du football africain qui s'y trouve. Des meilleurs entraîneurs de notre continent, les meilleurs joueurs de notre continent, les meilleures équipes de notre continent, les meilleurs présidents. C'est la fête du football africain et qu'aujourd'hui, en fait, tout le gratin africain est là et on est vraiment heureux d'être là.
Il y a un prix pour les meilleurs coachs. À votre avis, c'est quoi? C'est qui un meilleur coach?
J'en sais rien du tout. Je crois qu'on le saura tout à l'heure. Et je crois que ce qui est beau, c'est que jusqu'à présent, on ne peut pas vraiment savoir. Mais en tout cas, c'est une récompense, j'ai envie de dire, que pour tous les entraîneurs, une récompense en réalité individuelle, mais qui n'a rien à voir avec une récompense individuelle, c'est plutôt une récompense collective, parce qu'un entraîneur n'est jamais seul, il est entouré aussi par un staff, un grand staff.
Alors, merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
Bienvenue au Maroc.
Merci, c'est gentil. Merci.
Back to you, Doing.
At 21 champion of the Africa Cup of Nations, there Aliou Cissé, the coach of Senegal, hoping to get awards. He's nominated in the Coach of the Year award, so he's quite looking to have something, and also seeing if Sadio Mane can have the second title as a Player of the Year, that in the men's category. He's there alongside Edouard Mendy, a compatriot. There's also Mohamed Salah. We're talking about the national team of the year, Raymond Eloumé, looking at Cameroon, Egypt, and Senegal. Well, Senegal, they really stand tall, don't they?
I mean, like I said, the organization of the AFCON in January to February was fabulous. We scored more goals than any other team in the competition, that's for sure. We had the highest goal scorer. We played at sometimes quite scintillating football. I think I'll have to say that we were quite unlucky in the semi-finals to crash out on penalties on Egypt or against Egypt. But if I'll have to make a choice, the logical choice will certainly be Senegal. But for me, second will be Cameroon and third will be Egypt. I mean, if we base ourselves on what we saw in here in Cameroon for the AFCON, Egypt used their experience to reach the finals, but Egypt did not produce football for a team which is worthy of a status of having won the competition seven times.
That's crystal clear to see, because Egypt not in the World Cup, Cameroon in the World Cup, Senegal in the World Cup, and Cameroon was the most or the best attacking team during the Africa Cup of Nations in January and February in the country here. But Senegal, they won the competition. I mean, qualified for the World Cup facing a tough side like Egypt and beating them twice.
Yes,
final and the World Cup playoff.
Senegal has all its chances because, I mean, the path to the final, they achieved it with plum and were able to beat Egypt in the finals, penalty shootout. And then if you look at what they achieved even in qualifying for the World Cup, today Senegal may be, I mean, I think they may be able to take in 3 awards.
يحيى هذه أول مرة كتنافس على لقب من هذا النوع، شنو شعورك وأنت في الريد كاربت ديال الكاف أووردز 2022؟
أولا الحمد لله على هذا ماشي غنعتبرو إنجاز، ولكن شي حاجة اللي كبيرة بالنسبة ليا نكون مصنف ضمن هاد اللاعبين كبار في داخل القارة، فالحمد لله.
Là, on parle arabe. C'est vrai que c'est un peu difficile pour nos téléspectateurs qui nous regardent en instant sur les antennes de CRTV Sport and Entertainment. Nous sommes toujours avec notre consultant de ce soir, Raymond Eloumé. Nous vivons en direct la cérémonie de la CAF Award. On saura dans les minutes qui suivent le ballon d'or africain masculin et féminin, parce que ce sont les deux titres grandement convoités. Raymond Eloumé, en vous attendre, on pourrait dire que le Sénégal, qui a remporté la Coupe d'Afrique 2021 au Cameroun, a toutes les chances de remporter plusieurs trophées ce soir. Peut-être ballon d'or masculin.
Sadio Mané,
oui, pour Sadio Mané. Meilleure équipe masculine.
Yes.
Meilleur coach masculin avec...
Aliou Cissé.
J'ai envie de m'arrêter là.
It's quite possible.
La victoire, définitivement, cette CAN a placé le Sénégal au top.
Yes, I mean, they have a consistent, I mean, they're having a consistent team. If you look at the fact that they were finalists in 2019 in the AFCON in Egypt, and they had a consistent team, and there was a certain progression with that team. I mean, from runners-up to winners, qualifying again for the World Cup. People forget that Senegal was in the World Cup in 2018. They had 4 points, but could not go to the second round because of poor discipline. They were limited on discipline. So, I mean, it tells you that Senegal, they are living, I'll say that they are living the Cameroonian moment. We had our moment from 2000 to 2004. We had 4 years of dominance here in Africa. Senegal too are kind of living in that bubble, in that moment. I will not be surprised if they bag in 3 or more awards today.
I remember quite well in 2018 in Russia, that's the World Cup, wherein African teams were crashing terribly, but Senegal stood up. They were only eliminated because they had so many cards.
Yes.
That's what eliminated them from the World Cup. Then now you come 2 years later, 4 years later, they've been at the top of African football. They rarely drop points in matches. And I think for 2 years, they were the best team in terms of the FIFA standings.
Yes, I mean, if I look at that team, right now, I think going to the World Cup in November, in my view, Senegal will be one of the teams we should count on. They are in Group A, so which means that they have a better path in qualifying for the second round. That's 1 point. 2, if I look at the spine of the team, that's Edouard Mendy, Kalidou Koulibaly, who has just joined Edouard Mendy in the same team. That's Chelsea. I take the midfield, Idrissa Gana Gueye, who plays for Paris Saint-Germain. I take the attack line, Sadio Mané, who is going to Bayern. We all know that Bayern, they are very, very much dominant in their championship. So I'll not be surprised that before the World Cup starts, Mané could find himself with maybe 10 goals. Mané is not Lewandowski, we have to say, but Mané also is a goal-scoring threat. So if I look at the spine of the team and the teams that they play in, I mean, Senegal is, that's why I'm saying that the Senegal of today is not the Senegal of 2002. And that's why it's good to have somebody who has been a player of that team becoming coach, not wanting to repeat the errors of the past. And that's why I always tell people that, for me, I look at the appointment of Rigobert Song as not wanting to repeat the errors of the past. We suffered from 2010 to 2015 in this country. We should not be, we should not suffer as much as we suffered in those 5 years. And I think that's what Aliou Cissé is doing with Senegal.
J'aimerais, avec le concours de la réalisation, avoir cette image juste en preview. Raymond Eloumé, j'aimerais que vous regardez avec nous cette belle image des 3 nominés ce soir. De l'autre côté, on a 2 Sénégalais. D'un côté, on a 2 Sénégalais, notamment à Sadio Mané et Edouard Mendy. Et puis, nous avons l'Égyptien Mo Salah. C'est très rare de voir un gardien de but Ballon d'Or. Que dire de Edouard Mendy?
Yes, Edouard Mendy had a very good season. I would say that was in 2020-2021 when Chelsea won the Champions League. We were all here commenting on the fact that Edouard Mendy had, I think, 9 clean sheets, which was a record in the Champions League season. Edouard Mendy was quite unfortunate not to win the Lev Yashin Trophy for the Ballon d'Or, which was won by Gianluigi Donnarumma. I think we also talked about, but this season, the fact that Chelsea was 3rd in the English Premier League, Chelsea was finalist in the League Cup, finalist in the FA Cup, crashed out in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So on a personal level, he did not have the same season like he had. And in my view, it's even going to get tougher, because if you look at the defense where he plays in club, if you lose a player like Antonio Rudiger, you lose Andreas Christensen, it's going to be quite difficult, even if you get your compatriot. But with the national team, I think, with what we saw here, the fans who were in Bafoussam will attest that Edouard Mendy was in top form. For him to get the trophy today, that's a dream of Tomankono. Tomankono has always been saying that, why can't a goalkeeper get the Ballon d'Or trophy?
On le saura véritablement ce soir avec le dévoilement du Ballon d'Or ce soir. Edouard Mendy, gardien de but, Sadio Mané, Mohamed Salah, voilà les 3 qui sont nominés dans cette catégorie. Peut-être mentionner, Raymond Eloumé, que le Cameroun était aussi tout près avec Aboubacar Vincent. C'est rappelle qu'il était soulier d'or pendant la CAN de 2021, meilleur buteur. Et de l'autre côté, Karl Toko Ekambi. Malheureusement, les 2 Camerounais ont été vincés avant que le dernier carré ou le dernier trio.
Yes, if you look at also their stats at club level, it doesn't compare to this short list. I think we should be honest with that. But I think I would like CAF to introduce some sort of a coefficient method, a coefficient procedure, that the goals you score for the national team or the stats you have for the national team, it means you are playing on African soil, has to count more what you do at your club level if it is on.
Yes. I think that's an argument that's coming in from the categories of the CAF Interclub Player of the Year. That's in the men's category, the CAF Interclub Player of the Year in the women's category that they just introduced now. But that's not going to happen, because at the end of the day, European football is breathing down our throat, and people will be talking about Mohamed Salah, will be talking about Sadio Mane, will be talking about Kalidou Koulibaly, all those best players in Europe. But now, if you look at the players who were eliminated in this final 3 of the nominees, Kalidou Koulibaly, you talk about Hakim Ziyech, Karl Toko Ekambi, Vincent Aboubakar. What does it really say of African football?
Yes, that's why I was saying that I think your impact on African football is what should count. When you talk about the CAF Interclub competition, the CAF Interclub competition is just a change of name. The defunct name was CAF Champions League Player of the Season, which we know in the 2000s, in the decade of the 2000s, was won multiple times by a player called Mohamed Aboutrika. So if you look at for the past, if we take the past 1 year, what has been the impact of Edouard Mendy, of Mohamed Salah, of Sadio Mane on African football, on African soil? Given that, remember that we played 6 matches from September to November, which were qualifying matches for the World Cup. And then we had to play the playoff encounters in March, the double confrontations. What were their impact in these matches? What was their impact in the AFCON? So, I mean, if you take 6 matches qualifiers, 2 matches double confrontation, that makes 8 matches, and then you take the AFCON, it makes it 6 matches, it makes 14. So, in those 14 matches, we are able to get a coefficient of, in the 14 matches, how performant you were. Because if you have to take those 14 matches, I'll bet you that the coefficients of Toko Ekambi, Bensa Bobaka will be higher than these 3 with respect to their national team. If you take for a player like Mohamed Salah, for example, Mohamed Salah was voted CAF Promising Player in 2012 when he was playing for FC Basel. But he did not have a very big impact still with the national team. If you take in the CAF Youth Player of the Year category this year, you have a player, Hannibal Mejri, who plays with Manchester United. He played some minutes in the AFCON. What has been his impact? But because he's a promising player, he's a very good player, that's why you see him feature in the CAF Youth category. So if you take a player like Kamaldeen Sulemana, who plays for Ghana, who has been playing here in Africa. If you take our compatriot Mbela Ituga, who does not even feature, they will feel hard done by that such a player who plies his trade in Europe is featuring in a category that they could have featured. So that's why I'm saying that CAF has to look at the argument that the coefficient of you playing for a CAF competition or playing anything African related must have a higher coefficient than with your expatriate club if you're out of Africa.
I think maybe they can start by raising the profile of the CAF Interclub Women's Player of the Year Award, the CAF Interclub Men's Player of the Year Award, and also maybe increasing the competitions that we have on the continent, because you talk about the CAF Champions League, CAF Confederation Cup. How many Africans watch the CAF Champions League? Is it really on TV? Do people really watch that? So that's the problem that we have in Africa. But gentlemen, I think we should focus on the player of the year. That's in the men's category. Edouard Mendy, Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane. The big question is it really going to be Salah's or Mane's? I beg your pardon, because he just landed in Rabat this morning, Sadio Mane, while Mohamed Salah is playing with Liverpool. And that's the big man. On regarde directement le tenant du titre Ballon d'Or africain, Sadio Mane, qui on rappelle évolue désormais du côté du Bayern de Munich. Sadio Mane c'est possible que Sadio Mane remporte une fois encore ce titre cette année au regard des performances. Peut-être prendre cette réaction si jamais elle est en langue française ou en langue anglaise.
On behalf of my club, very excited to be here with our player as well, who's nominated for Goal of the Year.
First time in Morocco?
No, I've been here before. Fantastic. We did our pre-season last year. It's a beautiful, beautiful country.
How do you feel about women's football?
Women's football is fantastic. I was here for the opening ceremony of WAFCON. As you can see, Morocco as a country has invested a lot in women's football, but also every national team you can see is extremely competitive. And I'm very excited for the final in 2 days.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the work.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Back to you.
Gonzalez, the Simba Sports Club official there representing the East African club. Now, Player of the Year men's category. A while ago, we just saw Sadio Mane, and that's the man from Senegal. I mean, living in the United States of America, wherein he scored for FC Bayern Munich. And here he is today in Rabat, Sadio Mane. All smiling, a big smile on his face.
Beaucoup de confiance, faut-il le dire, lorsqu'on regarde ce visage de Sadio Mane. Très confiant. Selon certaines indiscrétions, Mohamed Salah pourrait, je parle bien au conditionnel, pourrait ne pas participer, ne pas être présent du côté du Maroc pour cette cérémonie. Et là, on regarde cette belle accolade entre deux Sénégalais et avec Emmanuel Adebayor. C'est l'Afrique qui gagne et ce soir, nous serons véritablement le Ballon d'Or africain. féminin et masculin, parce que ce sont les deux catégories grandement convoitées pour cette cérémonie de CAF Award. On va prendre cette réaction toujours en direct du Maroc.
Oui, c'est la première fois. Et je suis vraiment content d'être parmi les nominés. Et c'est ma première fois. Et vous savez, ce trophée, c'est vraiment important pour ma carrière et pour mon équipe aussi. Je suis vraiment content d'être ici.
On est aussi content de te recevoir.
Merci beaucoup.
Bonne chance.
Merci.
Back to you.
Peut-être rappeler les autres catégories, parce qu'il n'y a pas que meilleurs joueurs et meilleures joueuses de l'année. Il faut parler, et là je vais parler en anglais, Interclub Player of the Year for the Women, Interclub Player of the Year for the Men, Young Player of the Year, Women and Men, Coach of the Year Men and Women, Club of the Year Women and Men. Et puis nous avons the National Team of the Year, de National Sénégalais qui évolue du côté de Simba, et puis Zouyer El Moutaraji, le Marocain qui évolue à Wydad Athletic Club. Et la musique, elle s'intéresse aussi au sport. Et là, Assalfo du Magic System. Assalfo qui est présent certainement pour rehausser l'image de cette CAF Award. 3 ans, cette cérémonie ne s'est pas tenue. Vous comprenez pourquoi aujourd'hui il y a tant d'engouement à regarder cette cérémonie, et certainement les nominés qui sont très heureux. Ce soir, on saura véritablement qui va succéder à Sadio Mané, peut-être lui-même, ou encore à Assid Sat Oshoala, la Nigériane. Et on espère pourquoi pas que ce sera le Cameroun avec Njoya Adjara.
Yes, Sadio Mané continues to have his moment on the red carpet in Rabat. The FC Bayern Munich player, but formerly Liverpool. I mean, talking about player of the year in the men's category, we do not have Mohamed Salah in Rabat because he's now playing for Liverpool against RB Salzburg in a pre-season friendly, and he just scored. I think he scored the first goal against RB Salzburg for Liverpool. So it's a sign, isn't it?
Well, I mean, we could look at it as a sign. I think we'll say that maybe at club level, Mohamed Salah had the better stats, but the past 5-6 months at club level and at national team level have belonged to Sadio Mane. Sadio Mane was instrumental for Senegal in them winning the AFCON, instrumental for them in qualifying for the World Cup. I mean, that should count. And then if you look at the change in position of Mohamed Salah, I think the coach Jurgen Klopp has done a very good job. Jurgen Klopp is German, coach of Liverpool. Julian Nagelsmann is German, coach of Bayern Munich. If you see Sadio Mane, who towards the end of the season switched from the left as a left wing forward to a permanent forward position as the main striker, and he was very, very brilliant in that position. And Bayern selling Lewandowski, the goal machine, 344 goals in 375 matches for Bayern, selling him for 50 million euro to Barcelona, and Bayern has not yet bought a replacement. It means that Sadio Mane can really, really play that forward position, and he's sure to score goals. So in terms of even player profile, it means that Sadio Mane is much more versatile than Mohamed Salah. We all know that Mohamed Salah plays on the right, and he likes receiving the ball in space so that he can run, he can dribble. But even with the national team, we see sometimes Salah change position. Sometimes he plays behind that main attacker, he plays on the left, he can play on the right. So I think even on a personal level, for me, this award belongs to Sadio Mane.
I think the most interesting thing is when somebody who is fronting to win an award meets the two other opponents. I mean, Sadio Mane's Liverpool against Edouard Mendy's Chelsea. They won the FA Cup. Mohamed Salah, that's the Egypt against Senegal of Sadio Mane. Egypt lost the final of the Africa Cup of Nations. The World Cup playoff came up, crucial one, a ticket to Qatar 2022. Egypt's Mohamed Salah lost it against Sadio Mane's Senegal. It's like you've met all the opponents and you've defeated them.
Yes, I mean, those are telling statistics. I think CAF also has its way of looking at most of these matches because CAF has its technical team. But the way that Sadio Mane is present, the confidence that he exudes. This is a guy who was in pre-season training in the US with his new club Bayern, scored a goal yesterday, and thank God for private jets and increasing jet fuel prices, still able to manage to get that flight to Rabat. I think the writing is on the wall. I mean, for me, it is quite clear. If Sadio Mane is there, present, walking without confidence on a very long red carpet, for me, Sadio Mane is the winner this year of the Player of the Year.
Dans 10 minutes, très exactement, va débuter cette cérémonie de la CAF Award. Vous avez l'occasion de voir en exclusivité sur les antennes de CRTV Sport and Entertainment ces images avec Sadio Mane, le tenant du titre ou alors le meilleur joueur en ce qui concerne l'édition 2019 parce qu'on a eu pratiquement 3 ans sans assister à cette cérémonie de la CAF Award. Raymond Eloumé, j'aimerais avec vous qu'on essaye de voir cette situation parlant principalement du meilleur coach de l'année. Je cite les noms: Bruce Mwape de la Zambie, Désiré Eyis de l'Afrique du Sud. Et peut-être écouter d'abord Sadio Mane, le tenant du titre.
Sénégalais Sadio Mane, très ravi de vous rencontrer. Bienvenue au Maroc, bien sûr.
Le plaisir est partagé, madame.
Donc, une année époustouflante pour Sadio Mane, que ce soit avec l'équipe de Liverpool au Sénégal. Maintenant, une nouvelle aventure commence avec le Bayern. C'est la meilleure façon peut-être de clôturer cette saison, ce titre?
Je ne sais pas, mais bon, je pense que ça a été une année vraiment exceptionnelle. Moi et mes coéquipiers, tout en d'abord gagné la CAN, qui n'était pas du tout facile. Mais bon, je pense qu'on l'a réussi ensemble. Et après, comme je l'ai dit, j'ai changé de club. Et c'est au bon moment et au club idéal. Donc, je suis très content et je suis excité de débuter la saison.
Merci beaucoup, on vous souhaite bonne chance.
Merci à vous.
Merci. Back to you doing.
Sadio Mane, all confident. It is coming the second. So here's the boss of the Confederation of African Football, Patrice Motsepe, alongside his Secretary General. That's talking about Veron Musengo Ongba, who is working with the president. They're making their way to the hall.
Avant de partir directement du côté du Maroc pour vivre cette cérémonie, Raymond Eloumé, je disais, qu'est-ce que cela vous dit? Comment vous trouvez cette façon de mettre dans le même panier les coachs qui entraînent les équipes nationales, les sélections nationales, et ces coachs qui entraînent les clubs? Je prends le cas de meilleur coach. On citait tout à l'heure Aliou Cissé du Sénégal, Carlos Guerrero de l'Égypte, et puis Walid qui entraîne le Wydad Athletic Club. Là, on sait que le club, c'est pratiquement toutes les semaines. On est sur le terrain. Par contre, l'équipe nationale, il faut attendre les regroupements pour voir les joueurs, attendre les compétitions et les matchs amicaux. Mettre ces deux types d'entraîneurs dans le même panier.
Yes, I mean, it depends on what are the criteria for the coaches that have been put forward. But we all know that the coaches which work day to day with their clubs, they enjoy a certain success, and the clubs and the teams which work with their national team coaches, they also enjoy a certain success based on a competition. So I think for CAF, it would have been very difficult for them to have a CAF club coach of the year and then CAF national team coach of the year. It would have been very difficult, but with what they've done, it becomes very, very difficult to trace out their achievements, because if you take, for example, the CAF Champions League, for sure you want to go with the winner of the CAF Champions League. But if you put the CAF Champions League now on par with the AFCON, it's not the same.
And also the World Cup qualification.
And also the World Cup qualification. So you will notice that already a coach like Aliou Cissé is going already with a very, very big advantage, because winning the AFCON will have more points, more coefficients than winning the CAF Champions League.
And it's also the problem that you raised about CAF organized competitions when it comes to club football. You talk about the AFCON, you talk about the World Cup qualification. We all know that these coaches, they sit and within 1 or 2 weeks, they send emails to clubs in Europe that please release this player on these dates. We want to use this player. That player has been playing maybe with Napoli, has been playing maybe with Liverpool. He's been honing his skills. He's coming as a ready-made talent. You just have to do the tacticals, the tactical formation in order to get the right results, especially when you have good quality players like what we've seen with Senegal. But you talk about the CAF Champions League, you start a grueling season, maybe of 8 months, of 9 months. You are meeting Al Ahly, you are meeting Simba. At the end of the day, you emerge champions. I think maybe they are not fairly placed. The coaches coming from the CAF Champions League and CAF Interclub, because you're looking at Walid Regragui, with that athletic club manager. He won the CAF Champions League last season. That was a phenomenal feat.
Yes, I mean, for him, especially that he was able to beat Al Ahly, which is no mean feat. We know that Pitso Mosimane had won the 2 previous editions. And I mean, Pitso Mosimane, if we had had this awards in those years, maybe his name too,
maybe in
he would have won
or
in 2021 or in 2020. So it's quite unfortunate. But I think what you are saying makes a point. I think we remember that Glow was a one-time sponsor of these awards. I think it is now on CAF, following their new vision, to get a sponsor of these awards, such that they can share out these awards in many categories. Look like
they can have a category like the Interclub Coach of the Year.
Yes, look like an award that they shelved out, CAF Goalkeeper of the Year. Yeah. Now, imagine that you have the CAF Player of the Year in Sadio Mane. Meanwhile, in there you had Edouard Mendy. But if you have CAF Goalkeeper of the Year, Edouard Mendy is sure that at least he will.
Yes, it's also going to give a chance to a good goalkeeper like Mohamed El Shenawi.
Shenawi,
from Al Ahly,
from Al Ahly, to be able to dream that. So I think it is. I think the ball is with CAF. Get a good sponsor, such that, I mean, because with what we are seeing, I can remember the Glow Awards which were taking place in Ghana, in Nigeria. There has not been much pomp and fanfare like what I'm seeing in Rabat, Morocco. So I think the Moroccans have raised the bar very high as to what these awards are going to be. It's looking more entertainment than sports, but I think that's what we want to see. We all see the Ballon d'Or as it happens. The red carpet, which is in France, how they roll it out, and I think Africa is copying from the best. But I think we have to add more awards such that we are able to satisfy as many athletes who are working very, very hard every day for this sport.
Peut-être c'est un message qu'on envoie aussi à la CAF. Vous l'avez dit, si on a le meilleur joueur interclub, pourquoi pas ne avoir le meilleur entraîneur interclub? Parce que lorsqu'on essaie de voir un peu la balance, un entraîneur d'équipe nationale et un entraîneur de club, quand ça dérange un peu. Et lorsqu'on a principalement la CAN, qui est une grande compétition majeure par rapport à la Ligue des champions africaine, on comprend bien évidemment que l'entraîneur de l'équipe nationale pourrait inévitablement remporté. Alors que la cérémonie est censée débuter dans moins de 3 minutes du côté du Maroc. Et là, vous l'observez à l'écran, le président de la Confédération africaine de football, le docteur Motsepe, qui s'exprime face à la presse avant d'entrer dans ce grand hall où seront dévoilés dans quelques instants les vainqueurs en ce qui concerne cette édition 2022 de la CAF Award. Rappelez pourquoi pas certaines catégories, notamment meilleure joueuse africaine. Il y a Chut Njoya Jara, la Camerounaise, qui est opposée ce soir à Sissat Oshuala et Grace Chanda. Meilleur joueur africain, Sadio Mané, le tenant du titre, parce qu'il a remporté en 2019. Il est face ce soir à Mohamed Salah, l'Égyptien, et à son confrère, son compatriote, face à son compatriote Edouard Mendy. Et puis d'autres catégories, notamment meilleure joueuse interclub, meilleur joueur interclub, le plus jeune joueur de l'année, la plus jeune joueuse de l'année, le meilleur coach de l'année, meilleur coach masculin et féminin. Et puis nous avons bien évidemment le meilleur club de cette année et surtout le meilleur but de cette année 2022. Voilà certaines catégories engagées ce soir pour cette cérémonie de la CAF Award qui, on le rappelle, se déroule au Maroc 2 jours avant la finale de la CAN féminine, la 14e édition, où le Cameroun, on le rappelle, a été éliminé sans arriver à l'étape des demi-finales. Mais le Cameroun qui devra batailler très très fort pour pouvoir disputer la Coupe du Monde, parce qu'ayant déjà battu le Botswana, il reste une étape à franchir. Ce sera en février 2023, les matchs de barrage pour cette Coupe Nouvelle-Zélande.
Yeah, Kamla, just an overview of the awards this evening. It's in Rabat, Morocco, and there are 13 categories. Moving through, you have a Player of the Year, that's in the women's category, Player of the Year in the men's category, Interclub Player of the Year in the women's category, Interclub Player of the Year in the men's category. There is the Women's Young Player of the Year, also Men's Young Player of the Year. Coach of the Year, that's women. There you have Desiree Ellis, who's championed South Africa to the final of this year's Women's Africa Cup of Wydad Athletic.